Been a lot of talk about racism over the years, mostly by media, and it's a one-sided narrative trying to imply that racism only exists within Caucasian people. It does not. The races that are doing the most complaining about racism discrimination are the ones dishing it out in America today. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. And everybody knows about the elephant in the room, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it because you can lose your job, as the case was me with Richmond County Transportation. Talked about a white woman receiving a beatdown. I mean, I don't know this white woman. That woman doesn't even know me. That woman doesn't know that some white guy far removed from her lost his job defending the awful thing that she went through. Doesn't matter. Wrong is wrong. If a black woman had come out of a jazz fest and was assaulted by 6 Caucasian men and women for no reason, I would have said the exact same thing I said in that video. I would have referred to the attackers as savage, Neanderthal, and I would have said I never want to live in a town where that's the dominant theme. But I was fired. Y'all saw a woman come into this chat. The chat is off, by the way, today. A woman that I work with that's still driving came into this chat room. And she talked about the other guy I worked with, who is African American. She said the pump area is dirty. Things aren't getting done. He's still smoking. And she's not the only one. Other black women are letting me know, since you've left, it is not the same. But boy, they sure rallied around the flagpole to get rid of the one white guy because the superintendent of Richmond County Schools was virtue signaling. That's all it was. They didn't look at my work ethic. They didn't look at my production. They didn't interview many of the black women that came down to the pumps and said, you even more than the other guy. There was a black guy before me who was a self-proclaimed minister. He was nice to everybody. I thought he was nice. The last summer I worked with him, he picked and picked and picked. Mike, you can't, we got to save money. Just patch. I said, we cannot patch. The seat's got 10 giant patches on them. I was told by a black woman in management said, Mike, anything where the metal's pushing through, replace the cover and the foam. Don't worry about saving money. Let's get these buses fixed. I said, well, I got a problem with the guy I'm working. She goes, you do what I tell you. I'll deal with that. So out of a fleet of nearly 200 buses in less than a year, I got control of the worst buses. And I had been doing it. The summer before, I had actually got the job as fuel attendant. I laugh. Fuel attendant was the least of what I did. But you saw a woman come in here yesterday. She used to tip me. I didn't ask for that. Black women get off their buses and hug me and said, man, I love you down here. I hate coming to this place. I hate driving this bus. I can't stand the Board of Education, but I like seeing you. But I was called a racist in a scathing letter. The worst letter ever written about me. All of it untrue. She talked about the little shorts I made that were horror shorts. I was encouraged by one of my friends in Ohio to do that. The creepy music, me walking around with an axe in my house. Somehow that translated into the entire transportation was scared of me. Really, that's why a couple of men in the shop threatened me for no reason. No reason. One of the guys that's still there came to me and said, guy that had been there 20, 25 years doing nothing but skirt chasing, standing around, harassing me and women. and management did zero. He wrecked a bus. He was on his cell phone and he wrecked a bus. And it took them 2 months to get rid of him. If any driver had done that, they would have been fired at the scene. Don't tell me that favoritism doesn't exist among the other races. My brethren, do not hold your faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ with an attitude of personal favoritism. For if a man comes into your assembly with a gold ring and dressed in fine clothes, and there also comes in a poor man in dirty clothes, and you pay attention to the one who is wearing the fine clothes and say, you sit here in a good place, and you say to the poor man, you stand over there or sit down by my feet. Have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil motives? Listen, my beloved brethren, did not God choose the poor of this world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which he promised to those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor man. Is it not the rich who oppress you and personally drag you into court? Do they not blaspheme the fair name by which we have been called? If, however, you are fulfilling the royal law, according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. Do we talk about that today? People get on me for wearing this, for wearing this. Another man yesterday, it was nice, but he left a comment. You know, as part of your Christian growth, how can you be told or distinguish between an atheist when you're dressing in a woman's clothes? Well, I don't know too many atheists that dress in women's clothes, so I'm not sure what your point is. And one of my moderators wrote and said, it's just amazing and how exhausting people get all up into this fabric thing. I do this for several reasons. I'm a little weird. Did you hear what I said? And I own it. When I look at what goes on in the world, I'm not as weird as what's out there. I want to try something, I do it. If I want to buy a deuce, I buy it. If I want to sell it, I sell it. If I want to buy a house, I buy a house. If I want to meet a girl in Hong Kong or in Manila, I'm going to do it. And I did it. God allowed me that lateral movement. Did every decision I make please God? No, it didn't. But partiality. We see America's a caste system. It is. People who earn more money than others, they look down their nose at those of us that are just working class. I dated a Korean woman in Denver, Colorado. Very interesting story. Parents claim to be Christians and conservatives. I'm not sure about the Christian part. They were from North Korea way, way back in the day. It's funny. They were in a system of tyranny. They come here and then they're going to look down their nose at me. They never met me. They saw my YouTube channel way back in the day. Her sister found her. Her sister's a liberal, married to a wealthy rich man in Seattle, and she doesn't have to do anything but play at home all day. And her parents said, wow, Michael at his age, why he not own a company? They were both doctors, retired. They'd had his and hers golf carts. They had a home in Vegas and a home in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is a beautiful place to live. And they looked down their nose at everybody. I said, really? Why are your parents judging me? Her mother was anorexic and an alcoholic. I said, oh, and they're looking down their nose at Michael. I'm not anorexic. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't even own a golf cart. I don't want one. Our society shows favoritism to those that went to college. They show favoritism to the suits and ties. They show favoritism to the rich and the well-to-do. I'm not afraid of poor people, but I'm tired of people coming up. Hey, man, do you got money? Hey, man, can you lend me money? No. Driver carries no change. I told somebody at work that yesterday. You don't carry no change. How do you even buy a snack? I said, I don't. Why is it that our society judges somebody based on what they wear, and they fail to put, let me rephrase that. They fail to connect the dots. Who is screwing the pooch in America? Who is causing the problems? Attorneys and lawyers and fancy dress, suit and tie professionals that went to college. I'm not making the laws that are causing your taxes to go up. I'm not your loud, noisy neighbor that starts a car and goes, wah, for 10 minutes before I leave. I'm not going, I'm not a problem to society. People tell me, somebody left a comment saying, you've had problems at every place you've lived, in every workplace. Do you think the problem could be you? Could be, but I don't think so. You know why? Because America went shift, and ground gears and went from manners to show up at work on time to do your job without kissing the butt of the boss, to screwing around, smoking pot, doing whatever they want, and they're laughing at us. Of course I'm not going to get along. Let me tell you what happened yesterday. We got an older black man. He's cantankerous as all get out. He's a few years older than me. He's muscular, short little guy. He works. He smokes in the company vehicles. He smoked in the break room when they told him not to smoke in the break room. He kind of does whatever he wants. The other day, I saw a flatbed tow truck pull up. They had a new SUV, and they were lifting up. I said, what happened? Oh, there's a knock on my engine. I said, it's brand new. He says, oh, yeah, I'm taking it back to the dealership. They got to deal with it. Then my supervisor said, I said, is he going to be here today? I need him to pull stuff. And he said, he's supposed to come in, but he's having trouble. They're saying they're not going to honor it. When you buy a new vehicle, if you get oil change or you do it yourself and you don't have a sticker, that voids out the warranty. What they want you to do is pay, triple rate at the dealership and have them do it on a new car so that if there's any problem, then you're covered. He was gone for a couple days. So he came in yesterday. I said, hey, how's things going with your vehicle? Well, you don't need to worry about it. I'm not worried. I'm just making conversation. I'm just caring. Well, you don't need to worry about it. I'm not worried about it. I'm just, you don't need to worry about it. This guy is obtuse. I'm like, you know what? I'm done talking to you. There's something Fruit Loop up here. But he's in there fussing to everybody. Oh, yeah, dealership ain't gonna honor it. And I've watched him every day. When the brothers come on in, hey, man, what's up, man? Hey, man. And when he looks at me, he gives me the glare. What did I do to him? Zero. He even complained to me one day about one of the black guys don't do SHIT. I said, well, you don't see me. No, I know you work hard, man. I lived in Duluth, Minnesota. And I got very, very, very aroused on my lunch. Not aroused, but angered. My ire rose up. Now the Native Americans in Minneapolis are complaining about ICE. I lived in Duluth. I didn't grow up hating people. I didn't grow up racist. My parents didn't use the N-word. My mother and dad did not ever have a discussion in the house like I do. They didn't talk about races at all. And in Duluth, I was soon to learn about the Fond du Lac Ojibwa tribe. The big lake, they call it Chugumi, which means big lake in their language. They owned a casino in downtown Duluth called Fond du Lac Casino. It's funny how Duluth managed to take one building in Duluth and turn it into Indian reservation so that they could have a casino to feed their addiction to gambling. And the Native Americans are cashing in because they're not subject to our laws. So they've got casinos all over their reservations, and now everybody's loving that. They got buffets and nice hotels, and they're cashing in on the greed of the rest of us. I lived on Central Hillside. A lot of natives lived on Central Hillside. I knew nothing about their culture. Zero. I'm walking down the street in front of St. Mary's Hospital. Summer day. I heard somebody yelling, "Hey, Gilligan!" And there was a lot of indigent and weirdos wandering from downtown up on the hillside, and I just tuned it out. Some white guy was walking down the street on a summer day yelling at the top of, "Jeremiah was a bullfrog." I'm like, okay. Welcome to Duluth and the Crazy Farm. Comments were made in Duluth. They have a place, I think it was 70 miles from Duluth, called Moose Lake, Minnesota. They had a mental institution or a hospital, a live-in facility, and they closed it. Everybody said, "Oh my gosh, they sent everybody from Moose Lake to Duluth." Became the joke. Guy kept yelling, "Gilligan." And then the noise got closer, and it was three guys. "Hey, I'm talking to you." They were across the street. I said, "I'm not Gilligan." And they moved swiftly across the street, surrounded me. And I walked back where they were, away from them. They literally cornered me up against the front of a big plate glass window. And I said, "Man, I didn't even do anything to you." And I happened to turn. It was a one-way glass. It was real mirror on the one side. But I looked. I could see orderlies and doctors standing in there. And now they were looking out. And I said, "I would warn you, gentlemen, there's a whole bunch of medical staff watching you through that window. Put your face up against." They let go and they took off. If I didn't have that, they probably would have harmed me. They were drunk. They acted up all the time. Now, I remember one day a carload of them pulled over. "Hey, man, I'm thinking them glasses, man." They were rude. It was so bad up there. They were so nasty and hateful. One day I was walking to church on the west side of Duluth. So it was a bit of a walk. And it was icy. It had frozen drizzle. And some things were icy and some weren't, depending on the temperature. And I saw this big native woman come out. Big, I mean, obese. And these people were so hostile to me, so rude, that she slipped on her porch and fell and went bam, bam, bam down the steps. She cussed, yelled, started to get up. I did not say, "Hey, are you okay?" I kept on walking. I pretended I didn't see it. My conscience was becoming hard. I'm not going to deal with these people. Normally, my instinct is, "Oh, you okay?" But I didn't. I had had over and over and over and over bad blood from them to me. My boss called me into the office one day and he said, and this was at the bus company, "Mike, you need to move out of that neighborhood down there on Lake and 4th. Did you hear the news?" "No." "Mike, a block from your house, there's natives living in an apartment and they stabbed each other and were killing each other. You need to get out of Central Hillside." And I never saw it as bad. Then I read the article and I said, wow, just like another race I know, they're killing their own. They had a place called the Cozy Bar down on, was it 2nd or 3rd Street? And that was a real dive. And a lot of the Fond du Lac Ojibwa went in there and people said that's not a place anybody should go into. That gets ugly real quick. And you hear about the natives get upset about things and this and that. And, you know, you got liberals saying we stole the land. And I always say to the Democrats, Pelosi, and then you had Elizabeth Warren saying she was a Native American. That was ridiculous. She got caught with her pants down. And not one Democrat has offered their mansions, Oprah, any of them, has offered any of their bank account back to the natives. And I've said, if you really believe we stole the land, then you're part and parcel of that. Sign the title deed of your house to them and shut up. Pay them rent for living on their land. Oh, they don't want to do that. This is how I know that in spite of my sorry self, in spite of my feminine ways and whatever I do that sets people off on this internet, I know one thing. My mind is more intact than most people out there in most places I've lived. May not look like it. I didn't go to college. I don't need to. College is brainwash. It's programming and it's rot. The whole suit and tie mentality is nothing but a caste system. You put on some fabric and act like a jerk, cheat on your wife, steal everybody's retirement account, Enron, stuff like that. I'm not the one doing those things. So I wear a chain and I'm different. Who cares? Put me in office. I'll honor my word. I'll remind Americans driving is a privilege. And these people with their scat packs and their street takeovers and stuff, we will impound your car and you will never get it back. And it will be sold and go back into city coffers for law enforcement and clean up our streets. Now all these people on welfare, able-bodied men stronger and younger than me, you're going to be on the street crew. You show up at 8 o'clock. You don't show up, you get 2 strikes on that. You're off welfare. You're out of public housing today. Why are we freeloading? The Bible says if man will not work, he will not eat. But if you're a minority hating on us, you can get a free check, you can get EBT, and it's ridiculous. It's not right. It's total discrimination. It's favoritism. And I watched this guy come into work. Hey, man, yo, what up, man? What up? Pump, fist bump. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. There's a lot of blacks that do that. I saw it at transportation. Tonal inflections. Now, there were black people in transportation that were very nice to me. We got a couple of blacks I work with that are very nice to me. 2 young guys always happy, upbeat. They go, hey, how are you? They respect me because I work hard. I respect them because they work hard and they do their job well. But you got a lot of blacks that are an alternate universe. They don't think the way we think. They favor their race. You see it all the time. And the other blacks won't speak out and call it out. If you're going down in flames and you've done nothing wrong, there's not a black that'll stand up and say, hey, why are you treating Mike this way? They won't do it. If I saw a black ill-treated, which I did in my workplace, I reported it. It had snowed close to 4 feet in Duluth. They call it the mega storm. Everything's got to have drama words to it now. Bomb cyclone, mega storm. A snow event. Gay. And I had bought a shovel. Everything was shut down. I scraped my ammo box change, bought some groceries. Bought a snow shovel at Ace Hardware. And there was a house on Central Hillside. It had about 300 feet of path from the sidewalk to the house. Kind of an unusual property. Hey man, you shove my walk, I'll give you $1. I said, really? I said, I'm going to pass. What, you don't want to work for money? I said, you know what? Where I live, I got paid more than that. You know how long it'll take me to shovel that? That's some heavy snow. That's 300 feet to your porch, and you're going to give me $1. No, sir. F you. Go have another beer. Go have another beer. I had problem after problem after problem. Did I do a thing? I'm walking home. I didn't dress like this. I didn't even have this. They picked on me because I looked like a harmless, approachable, no threat white boy. Years ago, I go into a truck center and some Hispanic guy says, "You remind me of Opie Cunningham." I said, that's wrong. Why? Because I'm not Opie Cunningham. And I begin to realize that in a caustic, calloused, hard, jaded society, they look at a guy like me and they have this view in their head that is not even consistent with who I am. Because they're so violated in their conscience with their ridiculousness. They look at a guy like me and think I'm not a threat. Well, I'm not a threat the way the world would be. I don't walk around bragging that I could kick somebody's arse. I don't brag about all the guns and weapons I own. I don't do that because it's pointless. I put my faith in God and I stay out of the drug traffic lane. I stay out of the bad boy lane. And I've noticed staying away from certain areas at nighttime extends longevity hugely. If you're going to go to a bar that you know is known for trouble, well, don't be surprised when something bad happens to you. The older I get, I'm finding, you know what? It's just a good idea to stay in at night. Yeah, I'm getting older because people are rough. People get stupid and you throw liquor into the mix. It's a powder keg. Bunch of clowns in Switzerland set the whole bar on fire with their stupidity because they were drunk, led by a waitress or bartender. Let's put sparklers in wine bottles and ride on shoulders so that we're close to the ceiling. And guys will slobber and fall all over their tongue to date a woman like that. A lot of you men are very dumb in this society. You're very unwise. You'll look at a woman with a pair of tots and you'll look at her and think, wow, yeah, she set the whole building on fire by her actions. So work hard, men, build your house and marry a flutie that burns your kingdom down. I'm amazed. I don't care what people think about me. The guy I work with who's been a complete pain went home at half day. And boss wanted me to do a project, get something wrapped up, ready to ship. And I whipped it out in double time. I said, where's he? Not going to be here the rest of the day. And then in front of the owner, he says, now don't get your hopes up. And I said, well, that wasn't very nice. Inside I'm going, don't get your hopes up. Are they going to get rid of this guy? Please, God, let it be. Companies in America have to be very careful now. I'm going to say something bold. A certain race of people in the United States has been taught to always be Sioux-minded, even when they're 100% of the wrong. We saw that with George Floyd. Family sued the Minneapolis PD. $27 million was, now, do not misunderstand me. An individual soul is worth a fortune to the Almighty God. He sent his son to die for everybody. But if you were to put a monetary amount to George Floyd based on his life, he had 2 kids, 2 girls, the life of crime, held a gun to a pregnant female's belly. There was never any outcry about that stuff. Was he worth $27 million? Was he making good money for his girls? Was he being a responsible dad, using counterfeit money at a convenience store? He was loaded up on fentanyl. He had COVID. He had heart conditions. The original coroner report stated that. The family didn't want to hear that. So they got another coroner that told them what they wanted to hear. Oh no, Officer Chauvin's knee restricted his airway. Does anybody remember the video that came out after CNN, MSNBC did the damage? It's the body cam of one of the officers. See, they didn't release that one. They release the one where the knee's on the back or on the, base of the neck. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Okay, the guy I work with is about as big as him. And he was heckling and heckling and heckling and heckling. Even after he was told, he kept doing it. Yesterday, I didn't deal with him. I had a project down an aisle that I was busy at. He'd tell me something. I said, okay, I'll get those. I'm getting tired as a white guy of having to walk on eggshells with certain ethnic groups of people, especially when they are not acting right. And I believe that we are going to have to demand fair and equitable treatment under the law, and companies need to stop skating around these issues and documenting somebody's behavior for 10 years before or 20 years in the case of a mechanic at transportation. That's ridiculous. If I'd have done one of the things that guy done, I would have been down the road Dugan. Nobody cares if a white person's fired. Nobody. I have had racial hatred dished out at me by Native Americans, by Hispanics, by blacks in America. My crime against them? Nothing. Did I walk down the street yelling the N-word or the S-word to Hispanics? Did I use the PUTO word to Hispanics? No. No. Racism exists in this country, but it's dished out by the ones that are projecting that everybody else is doing it. That's a fact. And I just read to you, the Bible says, "Do not show partiality." And many of these usual suspects claim to be believers in God. Watch the way they start their shift at work. Hey, man, what's up, man? What's up, bro? Fist bump, fist bump. They don't go out of their way to do that to me. Ever. We got another guy that works there that's in tandem with this older guy, both with the same name. He will never answer a direct question. Never. I'll say, hey, man, how are you? Why are they like that? I'm tired of us being beat up. I don't hate blacks because of a skin color. I hate a mentality. I hate a wrong mentality. And the district did a stupid thing. Let's fire our hardest worker that most of the people here got along with, but you had a few out there, a few bad apples, which transportation does nothing about. The head of the shop is violating policy by giving the guy that worked with me right to use a company van to go home with. That is not a privilege afforded to working people. That's the supervisors, the foreman. The mechanics don't get to take a company truck home. And the guy told me, he was an officer of public safety in the schools, and he liked this student. He hired 3 people in the department while I was there. 2 of them were fails. One was his neighbor, who was a white guy. We had nothing but problem after problem with him. The other one was a guy that was already working there as a monitor. In fact, he wanted me to do shift rotation. I said no. I've been here longer than any of these guys, and no, I will work 5 to 1. They gave it to me first. I shouldn't have to change and do shift rotation. My body doesn't work on that. He got into the shop. He was officer of public safety, knew nothing about diesel engines, mechanical, nothing. Head over the shop. The actual amount of work he does in a day is not even a 0.001 fraction of my output. Favoritism. You had a black friend in position of higher up, one of the deputy superintendents, whatever, put him in there. He got upset because he didn't get the captain over public safety. Oh, imagine that. You were passed over even though the guy that's in there is black now too. And he was going to quit. No, I'm going to have you do this. The black woman was put over the safety department. Her people skills are awful. She thinks she's all that on a stick. Very arrogant. Very loud. Loves to be heard. She dominates the two-way radio. That is a 10-4. That is a 10. What is a 10-4? That is a 10-4. What is a 10-4? I just felt like saying, what is a 10-4? That is a 10-4. And she goes on and bombastic. And I heard other black women say, I'm so tired of hearing her dang voice on that radio. I said, you and me both, sister. Other black women said to my face, you know they show favoritism up there, Michael. You know how many people applied for that job that were more qualified than her? I said, a lot. One of them was a white female. Her track record there is good. She didn't get the position. I saw things that if I was to sit down with the board and the media and tell them, they'd be like, what? You got a white foreman sits in the truck for 3 to 4 hours of shift in the back of the lot with his phone, idling the truck. They jump on the drivers, him and the other foreman, for idling the buses. They idle the company trucks all morning. Hours. So they keep warm or air conditioned. Whenever I had to ask the one foreman, he got irritated that I bothered him. Man, I'm trying to do my job. He makes $70,000 a year. The director of transportation, who's white, and people there at transportation, oh, they'll never hire a white guy to be the director. I said, excuse me? I was told you had a black guy in here. Somebody said, nope, Mike's right. We did. One of the foremen told me he came into the conference room and caught that director poonging another black woman on the table in the conference room. I said, did you turn that in? That foreman is white. And I tried to respect him, but he acts almost like a woman. He just blathers about everything, fusses about everything. He's good at what he does. Can you imagine if I had sex with another employee on the job where I'm at currently, or transportation, or any place? I would have been fired so fast. Favoritism, discrimination. I made a statement after living in Denver, Colorado in the 90s. I said, the blacks, they's got their own rules. They truly do. I lived in the black neighborhood in Denver. You should have seen the stuff that went on down there. The craziness. I worked at the black terminal, Northeast. You should have seen the craziness. They were told back in the 90s, they had a rule. You will not wear sports jackets, hoodies, Chicago Bulls, any of that. Denver in the 90s had an outbreak of gang violence over sports stuff. They did not want the drivers wearing any of that. Back then, you could wear a Henley collared shirt, but it had to be a collar. You could not wear T-shirts. You could wear sweaters in the winter. I followed rule. The boss came down and said, when you guys come in next week, if you are not in company dress code, you will be told to clock out and go home. Guess who violated the rule? Black women. And then they complained that it was racist. Now, that manager was Mexican. I know him. I know him very well. He was in Seattle. We met in the middle of Washington in Wenatchee and hadn't seen each other for years. We went to lunch, hung out and talked, and I drove back to Spokane. He drove back to Seattle. I said, man, they warned you guys that they were going to do this. And they just coming after us because we black. When the OJ trial came down, the room was divided straight down the middle. Well, not the middle because it was mostly black. The blacks all believed OJ was innocent. Most of us whites knew better. And after years of being involved with the African American community, most of them have a contrary way of thinking and looking at the universe. Why do you think most of the churches are extremely segregated? Why do you think there's black churches and there's white churches? A white church may have one or two black people in them, and the black church might have one or two white people in them, but you're not going to get, most of the black churches are used as Democrat bully pulpits. How does a guy like me walk in this kind of a universe? It's very difficult. It's very hard. And I'm not racist, but there's a lot of dishing out of it, showing partiality, showing favoritism. Showing favoritism. I saw it in transportation. They had a girl that was 4'10". She was not huck trot. And the guys would go on and slobber. Okay, different strokes for different folks. She'd come with her sunglasses and the whole, I'm here. And then she's having an affair on her husband with the draggiest of mechanics in the shop who was married to a Jamaican woman. And when he got fired, she was all sad and pouty. I had to keep my mouth shut. I said, really? Does your husband know what you're doing? We had a black preacher down there, a self-proclaimed preacher, meddling in everybody's business. He came up to me one day and says, you need to be careful what you post on Facebook. I said, what did I post on Facebook? Are you even on my Facebook? No, but everybody saw. I said, who's everybody? I ain't going to tell you. I said, if you're going to tell me who's making an accusation, tell me who they are or don't talk to me. Mike, you said that there was racism down here. I said, there is. There's total discrimination down here. That's not right. I said, I noticed. No, you making that comment ain't right. I said, I made an observation. If you were in a predominantly white employer and you saw the things I saw, you'd be saying the same thing. And I said, you're stepping out of your lane, by the way. Get off social media. I said, no, sir. And you cannot and will not tell me what to do. Lot of troublemakers. But you know what I learned about people? We had chameleons up there. Chameleon conservatives. We had a white guy in the shop. Hey, man, how you doing? Hey, man. He'd yuck it up with the troublemakers. And he'd come up, oh, yeah, Trump win. Yeah, dude. He played both sides of the fence. You ever met those kind of people? Stay away from those. How about the other people? They agree with you, but they don't want anybody to be seen agreeing with you, and they're going to be very careful. I call those lifeboat people. When you go down, your ship goes down, they don't care. They got their lifeboat out. They're protecting only themselves. This is why This right here is why white society is failing. The blacks will galvanize, real or imagined, with each other against something. Whites won't do it. Whites are too rugged individualistic. Oh, I don't want to worry about my job. Mike, I don't want trouble in my life. Yeah, you don't want trouble. You ain't going to stand up for the truth. You ain't going to talk about it. You don't want anybody to know you believe the truth because you're scared. And then you see somebody go down in flames and you can't stand up and say, that was wrong. That was wrong. White people are terrible about grouping up and forming solidarity. Look at what's going on in Minneapolis. Every conservative should stand up and say, look at you grown women acting like children, blowing whistles and disturbing a residential neighborhood. Why is the Minneapolis? I'm so tired of that silly chief down there. Give me the chief of police in Minneapolis. I'll do a better job. But no, I wouldn't be allowed to because liberalism dominates up there. You do your job, you're going to get fired or arrested. We're living in an upside down, back-asswards world. And we let the tail wag the dog. We're screwed. And that's exactly what's happening. I'm not making this up. Not at all. I look at people with their scripted speeches. When presidents got to read teleprompters. I don't need one. Ever. And what people are putting in office as leadership is a joke. I wouldn't let these people run a Kool-Aid stand in a residential neighborhood. I don't trust attorneys. I've had to use 3 attorneys in my life. 3. I had to use 2 attorneys due to the innate foolishness of a woman I was married to who had a degree in psychology. She was an LPN and a paralegal. I had to get 2 attorneys, 2 lawyers, because she had made 2 decisions that were just ridiculous. And the second time, she had violated what my first attorney, when we won the case without any struggle, told her, gave her specific directions. 6 months later, she ignored that. That almost got my son killed. Her not putting the hammer down and standing up on principle. And I'm going to tell you something that I've noticed. I don't care what people think about my style, my dressing. I've noticed something in society, white or black. You got guys growing up under the domination of a woman. They are not well adjusted. They are not ever going to become they're male in biology. But they're never going to become a man deep in their heart until they get away from that and struggle with no props. I was raised by a domineering mother. The dad was in the picture, but he was passive. But I've become a man because I've had to go through some hard stuff. And I'll be damned if a 26-year-old relative is going to talk to me about being a man and the way I dress when still living with mama and has not developed his own manhood, his own independence, is going to tell me what to do. That ain't right. Ever. Opinions are like butts. Everybody has one and they stink. But I know one thing. I don't think I'm a bad ASS at all. That's not the image I've ever wanted to portray. I'm not Opie Cunningham either. Ron Howard, whatever. I'm Michael Nelson. And the world doesn't have very many of us. In fact, I'm on extinction mode. There's only one me. And most of this society doesn't go for me. Could you imagine me being a CEO of a Fortune 500 company dressed like this? No, you can't. I wish I did own a Fortune 500 company. I would never call myself COO, CEO, CFO. Say I'm the owner. You're the CEO? No, I'm the owner. You're the president? I'm the owner. Hey, get these titles out of here. My name is Michael Nelson. This is my company. How may I direct your call? Corporate America is not our friend. It never has been. They're gouging us. They're trying to find as many creative ways to get you to part with your money as possible. That's it. It's greed. It's as bad as a casino. Materialism, consumerism is as bad as going to a casino. You might as well just take your paycheck, go to this casino, and throw it all on the craps table or the slots. Because every time you go to the store, you're buying this crippy crap and this junk. And women, oh my gosh, women in this country just spend money on foolishness, garbage that has no intrinsic value. I get more comments off unique stuff. Where'd you get that chain? Lowe's. Lowe's? Yeah, it's a chain, dude. I thought of this one day. The sad thing is Georgia, the air here and the humidity, it patinaed it. This was chrome. By the way, this is hot. When this thing warms up to my body temperature, this is heated up. I could use this as a hand warmer. I'm hot-blooded. Check it and see. And I don't have a fever of 103. I get put down by people that when I stand back and look at them, I'm like, this person's putting me down. This person is 6 years younger than me. Got a jacket on, a poncho on, hoodie, and a hat, and shuffles. Lumbers on. And he's saying, I don't know why you don't just fire these people. I don't know why you weren't fired. You don't put in a hard day of work ever. You said I'm kind of weird. The volume and output that I do in a day is more than you do in an entire 2 weeks. I thank God for my work ethic. I thank God when I get up in the morning and have a healthy bowel movement. I thank God that I go to sleep. I thank God that I have been taken care of by Him, even though falsely accused, abused by my mother, gone through stuff. And I'm so tired of people talking about Christianity to me, telling me that you're not representing Christ. You have never shown me love. Saying I love you once a year, ignoring my texts, ignoring my calls, not being involved in my life. Oh, can I have your dues? Can I have some money? Can I come live with you? No, no, no. I got to go to work. I don't need my house robbed. No thanks. From the inside. I'm tired of people to judge me and that's what taught me to judge. There is no prohibition in this word about judging except when you are not saved. You got to remove the plank to see the splinter. You've got the black community projecting that we're racist, and not everybody in the black community is doing that. But I'm a good guinea pig because there are black people at transportation that said Michael is not racist. There are other people that know that was political. You had a white woman heading up HR, making way too much money than she should. You got a superintendent making more money than she should. They want to make an example out of me. They didn't do anything about the to mechanics threatening and being booty holes day after day in the shop. They don't do anything about the bad acting other employees. Leadership is a joke in most places in America. And I hate dealing with women in positions of power. I said, could you please text me my gross pay on today's paycheck? And thank you. You need to go into your ADP. And I wrote back, did the supervisor not talk to you that we tried from his computer and we couldn't get it set up? And then she added this, you don't need to discuss your wages with anybody because that can cause grief. I don't discuss my personal finances with anybody at work. And I cannot get into the ADP. And I believe that so-and-so spoke to you about this, but thank you for the information. Why is it that white women got to be obtuse? Simple question. You know I couldn't get into ADP. You chastised me the first week I started. I said I tried to. Did you do it from a laptop? I don't have internet at the house. Well, you could have done it from your supervisor. Nobody told me that. I'm getting tired of being judged by white women like that all my life. And I look at the way you handle us. I'm a good worker. I come here, I clock in. I can't clock in, so I here early. But supervisor, don't worry about it, Mike. I got you covered. I'll turn it all in. I called him yesterday. I said, I got a little bit of tone. And he said, effer, I'll deal with this. He said, that's not even your or my job. It's HR's job to fix that ADP system. Not yours, not mine. I said, I just want to know why. He said, effer, let me handle it. That's his aunt. He knows her. Why do women do that? And then they wonder when we react, oh my gosh, he's got anger management. No, you are being a problem. You jumping on me. Do you even see what I do in a day from your office? Do you come down over here to the warehouse and watch? Women in America have no sense of reality or self-awareness. Not all, but most. My ex-wife, the damage she did that I still feel the shockwaves from. They're ridiculous. Little concerned when my son is collecting firearms and living with mom and then judging me. And yeah, that's not a good combo. Not a good combo. And I told his mother, he's going to be 18 in a month. This was years ago. This is my last food payment to you for him. I don't want to hear about any more of this crap. I've done everything I'm supposed to do and then some. You need to move him out, encourage him to get his own. Oh, I am. When he's 18, he's out. Yeah, 8 years later. You know what? Don't talk to me about being a man. When I moved to Duluth, Minnesota by myself, I stayed 3 weeks with a mutual contact. Before I had a job, I got an apartment. The mutual contact, and his wife says, you don't need to leave. I said, I need to get out of my van, need to get my stuff. I need to sort myself out. I had no bank account then. I had a teeny bit of money. Guess what? God showed up. And you don't become a man until you kick all the props out from under yourself. It was a summer day in Duluth. I was working at the Plasma Center. Lake Superior, the wind was kicking up. It was a beautiful, breezy day. Walking 3rd Street. And Duluth is built like San Francisco. You got a beautiful bleacher's view of Lake Superior. And when the sun hits it just right, you can see the colorations in the water, indicating the depths of the bay. But there were waves. The wind was whipping the spray off the whitecaps. And I just suddenly had this feeling that for the first time in my life, I was no longer in dry dock. I was no longer tied to the pier. And I had this beautiful picture of an ocean liner free out there. I said, I'm finally sailing on my own. That was the first stage in becoming a man. Coming to Georgia, buying a house in the hood, no relatives, no family, no girlfriend, nothing, was another stage in becoming a man. When you have a crisis and you're ready to throw in the towel, and I say, God, I need you. When the water line was leaking under the slab, I'm like, great. Somebody wants to jackhammer my house all up, dig trenches to lay water line, and we're not doing this. I have got to dig deep down and say, God, I laid all the pipe. I figured out a plan by the almighty power of God. And my plumber came in. He said, you did exactly what you know how much money you just saved you? I'll come in tomorrow, hook it up. We'll dig that trench. So what time you coming? I had the trench dug before he showed up. He spent 8 hours here, charged me $300, which was reasonable. Everything worked. And just this year, I finalized the hot water. I got everything out of the attic. Thank God they're talking about ice storms. I don't need the plumbing in the attic where no heat is going through the ceiling if the power goes out. I've been criticized by my family. I still got an ex-wife who judges me to this day, who has lied about me to many people. Many people have come back and said, wow, I see that you're not what she said. And what people fail to understand is sometimes even a good person, if they're with the wrong person, can bring out the worst in us. And the need to run out and have a girlfriend is just sadistic. I'm older now. And women don't like it when I say these things. They go, you're picky. No, I'm not picky. It's that what used to be a given with women, something that you could rely on, that's gone. So many women are on drugs and pot and alcohol and cigarettes. They got to have those things. They got to have their addiction to themselves and their narcissism and their dogs. And, and then they got all these bills and can't manage their finances. And they want a man to take care of that. Why? I'll tell you what, at the core of my being, I always say, if you're depending on something other than God, God's going to blow it up in your face. It's scary to have to depend on God. It's intimidating. It's scary when you don't have a woman to hold your hand when you're having a hard time, isn't it? That's exactly what we need. You need time alone. You need to establish you. You need to find yourself. And if I want to dress like this, to the heck with society. I don't care what this world thinks of me. I'm not viral. I'll never be viral. I'll never have 35,000 likes. I'll never have 100,000 subscriptions. Because most of the world looks at a guy like me and goes, that's the way they view me. I'm well aware of that. My own family has no love for me. Not my son, not my ex, not my mother. My dad passed away. Nobody. I have a very hard time with the word love. Most of what I love doesn't please God. Some things are neutral. I love trucks. I love the ocean. I love ocean liners. I love an orgasm. I love the beauty of women. I don't like the behavior that goes with those beautiful women, but I love the beauty of a woman's body. No, my life ain't a breeze in the park, ever. I'm not like most men. Most men go to work and they don't have the problems I have. One, because they look older. Two, because they're not wired and wrapped up the way I am. They don't really care. I'm just here to do my job. I don't get into it. I don't get into it either. People get into it with me. I don't know why people feel comfortable to walk on me, step on me, disrespect me in this internet, in the workplace, in the church. I go to church and you get a crusty, cantankerous old curmudgeon coot. I'm not going to be going Sunday. They're calling for ice. I'm not going. The roads are glare ice. I'm not going. But if it's good enough to travel and it doesn't look like it's going to be an issue, I'm going to go. And I'm going to own my manhood. If he gets rude, I'm going to say, you know what? Last week you were rude to me and I didn't appreciate it. Could you not talk to me? Thank you. And turn and walk. My problem is I get emotional. I have to tell myself all the time, keep your emotions out of it. It's hard. I don't care what a bunch of idiots on the internet say about me. I don't care what family members say about me. None of them have walked in my moccasins. None of them. And I didn't steal nobody's land. I bought this place with my hard-earned money. I signed the deed, and that's it. I didn't steal nothing from nobody. But I've been robbed. People try to rob my joy. People try to hurt me in their words and their actions because they don't understand me. And when you don't understand something or somebody's different, you hate it. You kill it. Americans are good at that. Let's wipe out the force so we can build all these ugly, stupid houses with ugly sun-bleached fences and fake Santas and fake blow-up inflatables in the yard going like this. Can I have the force back, please? Because that neighborhood should be a federal crime. That's pollution. I remember when I was in Mammoth. Mammoth had some beautiful homes built out of actual wood. They looked mountainy. And they had the trees all there. Then you just come in and bulldoze everything. Now they put up a housing project and they strip mine it. Curbs, gutters, sewer. Got to get all the cable boys in here. And everybody's house. Cookie cutter, cookie cutter, cookie cutter. Oh, yes, I bought a home in the Hampton Acres. Plastic siding. Big, giant, fake windows. The heating bill's ridiculous because they're not insulated any better than my 1953 special. People are dumb. They buy into the lies. They're gullible. They're suckers. My roommate, her mom bought a house. There were problems with a brand new house. They had to call a contractor back to fix this, fix that, fix this, fix that. They throw these things together. They get these clowns come in there with their little nail guns. There you got a new house. Yeah, junk. Those houses will not be here as long as this one. They won't. It will be ghetto in 70 years. But what really hits me, just like liners, ocean liners had a shelf life. 20, 25 years, they went to the scrapyard. I'm 59 years old. For all that I've been through, I picture myself as a beautiful liner with some salt streaks on the portholes and some rust coming down, some weathered decks. The engines and the heart of it are still strong and it's still beautiful on the inside. And I realize that one of these days, that one day the captain of this ship is going to put it to finished with engines at last. And the soul of me will sail on in eternity. one of the warehouses I go into, there's no lights. Nobody hangs out in there. This place to get parts. And one day I was in there, I'm like, can you imagine being in here in Helene and hearing all that noise? But I also say, God, I feel like you're in here. And I'll stop and I'll turn and look down an aisle full of differentials and winches and massive machinery and equipment on pallets and look up at ProMaze stacked 30, 40 feet in the air. And I say, God, I need you. I need you at work. People are difficult. You can't just be normal around people. They're squewy today. You can't just be nice. You can't have a discussion. So yesterday I'm like, all right, I'm done with clown man. You don't want to answer a question. You want to be nice to your race and be rude to me. I'm not going to chat with you. Next time he says, I'm just going to, maybe I should just ignore him. And it's not in me because I don't feel it's right, but yet I'm learning you need to mirror what these people are doing. I'll have that racism in me, but I feel it by others. Native Americans complaining about ICE. What is your problem with ICE? Don't you have reservation? Does ICE have anything to do with the reservation? I don't believe it does. I've heard the stories. Natives would come into a white area and kill somebody and run back to the reservation and have immunity. I'm tired of people complaining. I didn't have a plantation. I never owned slaves, and I wouldn't. I didn't steal any land. And I'm tired of being lied to by the Democrats and by the media. A woman came on my channel last night, seemed really nice. And I struggle with this because our society, churches and people say, well, you want to try not to offend people. You want to make the gospel of Jesus attractive. And what does that look like? Michael, as a Christian, you should dress a certain way. Yep, I should dot my I's and cross my T's and look and think just like you. Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you? No. No. Don't you all wish you had the freedom, just like me, to think? To put myself out there against all odds? I know I'm a minnow swimming against sharks coming downstream going, hey, fishy, ah! I know that. That's been my whole life. People call me a P-U-S-S-Y. Oh, because I don't throw down? Because I face the day, the people? This world is nothing but sharks and wolves to me. Everybody's suspect until proven otherwise. Everybody's guilty until they show their innocence. But I still give everybody a fair chance. I'm already praying that God will remove this difficult person. I'm like, I said to my supervisor yesterday, he goes, how's it going? I said, beautiful. You see how much I got done today? I said, when you let me shine, I shine. He goes, shut up, Mike. I said what I said. He goes, I know you're going to tell me. You know what I mean. And in my own way, I didn't say it. Get rid of this guy. Y'all want to give all these people a chance, but you got a good worker here. Don't bring somebody in who's going to hamper what I'm trying to do. I'm tired of dealing with a race of people, with a mentality of people that are always projecting about how bad we are. I am not a we. I'm an individual. My name is Michael Nelson. I had nothing to do with slavery and Jim Crow and Democrat BS and the KKK, and you all want to put that on me? Shut your mouth and your face. I had nothing to do with that. I had nothing to do with natives and the abuse thereof. But now you got people that didn't even go through all that, and they're dishing it out on us, all levels of society. I'm sick of it. Can somebody give these crybabies a frickin' binky or a diaper change or a swat on the butt? Something. The protesters, they're like the magpies, Heckle and Jekyll. Shut up. Go get a job and be productive. Tell you what, you come in my neighborhood and make all that noise, I'm going to come out and say there's ordinances against this. Go home. Idiots. Salt and pepper haired women in their Land's End jackets going, whee! You know what? How'd you like to swallow a whistle? And every time you breathe, you go, then you can hear it 24/7. I am sick of this country coddling idiots. And it's because of these stupid attorneys. We need to hold these bar associations accountable. They're all Democrats. They all want to turn our society upside down so they can make big money. Oh, the Democrats really care. Do you know how much a lawyer makes? Go do a poll. Go do your study and see how many of them are conservative, God-fearing Christians. You're not going to find it. Our system's been hijacked by attorneys. And then you got George Soros, an absolute evil clown. A traitor to his own Jewish people. Something to do with Nazi Germany. I don't know all the details. And he's funding paid protests or rabble-rouse in American cities. Arrest this guy. America favors the rich. They favor the well-to-do. Up and down Park Avenue with their noses in the air, while we're simply trying to survive. And for a long time, the Democrats are like the animals fighting in the other room, and you just kind of laugh at it, but they're punching through the wall, and it's spilling into our lives now. There's something wrong with that. I don't care what a Democrat or Republican, some curmudgeon old fart at church thinks. What bothers me is where I'm a wussy is I should turn around and say, you know what? Shut your mouth. You're a miserable old fart. I wasn't even talking to you. Mind your own business. But I'm talking to the pastor's wife. I got to watch what I say. It's stupid. You cannot find a decent church today without a struggle. You cannot. They got plenty of Kool-Aid fruit punch churches. Don't go to those. Don't go to those. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say something real and raw. I have never had an epiphany at church. God has reminded me again and again, it's called a personal relationship. God often speaks to me and punches through when I'm out there by myself, struggling, not in the church, but at the end of a hurricane and the end of a busy workday cleaning up debris. And he speaks through in the night sky with the light pollution turned off and I can see the stars. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Michael? Yes, God. Can you hear a still small voice that's whispering, I am, I am, I am. Even me, I'm selfish, I'm lustful, I am morally corrupt as hell itself. But God reached down and saved me. My inside looks like the Titanic stern section on the bottom of the Atlantic. Have you ever seen that? The forces exerted on that ship, not to mention air trapped in there in an implosion, to see inch-thick steel with girders and beams and all that just sprawled. I mean, how the heck does that happen? So sad. I love stuff like that. I love the ship. There's a video where you can hear what the engine sounded like. It's sad when they reversed engines. And then suddenly the engines stop, they release steam, and you realize this ship was built for this. And surprisingly, out of all the shipwrecks, it sails on in the minds and hearts of people all around the world. Some clowns paid $250,000 just for bragging rights to go down in a pop can to see it. They paid $250,000 for their casket. I'm not into Grizzly, but I wonder, did they find any human remains at all? When you get an implosion, what does that do to the human body? Wow. The Titanic's done, and yet it claimed more victims. It's rotting on the bottom of the ocean, and people died on the Titanic. Again, we're so stupid. Hey, we got a Nintendo joystick controller. This sounds like a great thing to go down in. He was bragging about that before it happened. Some man's son didn't want to go. He had a sense. Come on, son. An India man worth tons of money. That's not funny. But I don't feel sorry for them. I feel bad for the son. You ever hear of OceanGate anymore? Boy, did they get quiet. Somewhere in a back alley in a port town somewhere, submersibles for sale, 75% off. Financing available. No thanks. This young generation wants to redefine things. When I was very young, the Trieste, big old thing, went down to Marianas Trench, deeper than Everest is tall, 31,000 feet, under the ocean. The Titanic is less than half of that. The Bismarck is deeper than the Titanic. That's a bathysphere. I love when this young generation refers to us old farts and old fuddy-duddies. Well, them old people back in the day knew what they were doing. Engineeringly, they said a sphere with steel yay thick and a hatch with worm gear that tightens down. You're going to go down in a tube. Do you know how much pressure is exerted on that? A sphere makes sense. Physics, mathematics, thickness of steel. The longer the tube, the more force pushing in. A sphere with the thickness of steel is equalized. You young people, shut your mouth about us. We used to run this country pretty good. Then you came along and you're too busy going, I think I want to be a girl today, but I got a problem. Yeah, you got a problem, all right. You got a YouTube channel devoted to ripping on, shredding, harassing, inciting violence against Charlie Kirk, others, because a guy wants to pretend he's a girl. And you got Christians and conservatives and liberals. Get on. Why are you wearing that? Next time I say, is that a question you need to have the answer to for your survival? Why am I wearing this? Did you go to the old people in church that are rude to me? Did you go to my son who's living with mommy and condemning me and has shown no love at all? Do you ever go to my parents that abused me? Where were all you scripture quoters with all the crap I've gone through at the hands of Christians, conservatives, Democrats, blacks, white? Where's all the people quoting their scripture? Why is it they all come after me? Why? Because there's a devil. That's why. They just condemn. They don't listen to the messages on here. Well, I agree with your message. Then enjoy the messages. If you don't want to look at me, turn your phone around and go on about your work and pretend you don't know me. It's so stupid. If somebody's reading an audiobook, I don't want to see what the guy looks like. I don't have to look at a preacher. Sometimes if I'm in the mood to hear something, I'll just turn on the YouTube and have it blasting and I'm busy cutting wood or screwing things into the wall or whatever. I don't. I do things to find out for myself. And this has been a social experiment. And so many people that criticize my manner of dress are not smart enough to ascertain what I'm doing. They're not bright. I've proven something. Those suits and ties, those churches you go to, these corporate people, are they talking the way I'm talking? No, they're not. They're afraid. You got preachers that are afraid. They feel like they got to be nice to everybody. And they've softened it, soft soaped it, soft pedaled. You get sermonettes. Or I go to an old-fashioned Baptist church where it goes on and on and on, and altar calls, and all the teens run down there because the mommy runs down there. I'm like, it is so obvious that this is conditioned response. I see no change. The teens have that frumpy, grumpy play. Walk between me and somebody talking. Don't say, excuse me, good morning, Mr. Nelson. None of that. Yeah, Christ is making a difference down here. Oh, yeah, I see it. Curmudgeon, rude, can't speak. Don't speak. I mean, the church today is a mental institution. So if any of those people stumble on my channel and see me dressed like this, I say, yep, I do that. Well, we're going to ask you to leave the church. No problem. Bye. I'm reaching more people than anybody in that church is. Rather, God is through me in spite of myself. Things got so bad in the Old Testament that God used, was it Deborah? Men weren't doing what they were supposed to, so he used a woman. Christian preachers aren't doing what they're supposed to. They're busy worrying about their financial portfolios and writing another book and another book and another book and becoming filthy rich. And they're not challenging the stagnation within their own comfortable Christian cultural congregations. I don't care what these other Christians think of me. I don't care what a bunch of corporate buffoons think. I don't. I'm sick and tired of having to apologize for being myself. It's stupid. Stupid. $92 likes. Thank you. You think we could blow that up to 100? Pop-Tart Barbie has no content. She looks like an emo Not that that's bad. I like some emo myself. But she was in a marriage. He was abusive. And all these guys are hanging on her because they think she's an absolute fox. Thousands and thousands of likes. And I don't do this. 97, thank you. I don't do this for the money or the likes. I do this because this is my heart. And there's a growing group of people in the United States that have landed on this channel because they're tired of all the other stuff out there. Somebody took back their like, 96. Isn't that funny? Somebody takes back a like. People will pay for Pop-Tart Barbie, toilet seat, shower triangle that says he's God. All these other channels. Benny Johnson regurgitating the news as if he's got some corner on it. And you got all these people coming onto YouTube doing what everybody else is doing, reporting the news with their little take on it. And if it's a girl, she gets all the likes and all the subs because she's cute. I cannot believe how many channels that the people that host their own channels don't realize you're only getting the likes and hearts because you're a girl. Not because of content, not because of anything else. That's not talent. That's not content. If you got looks, God allowed you to have those. It just blows me away. Men want to come to me and threaten and talk tough. They'll sit on those channels and go, do you know what you would get if you married that girl? A headache. You think that's going to be a good woman? And even as a man, I see that we think with our pud way too much. It just blinds us to the reality. But it's not doing it with me anymore. I'm smart enough to ascertain. You better be careful who you date. Marry. Never, ever, ever live with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Stop playing house. I have people tell me all the time, Mike, our relationship works and we live together. We don't want to get married because we know we do, then we'll have problems. Why would you have problems when you get married? Well, it's just a paper degree. So you can always live with the tension. If the one doesn't do good, you can kick them out of your life. You can friend zone them. Nice. That's why Satan doesn't attack you. That's why the relationship works, because you're in rebellion to God. And when you have peace in your life, it's funny. Some people have more peace in their life when they're not obedient to God. Because when you're in rebellion, the devil kind of backs off on you. It's funny how that works. You try to live for God, you get kicked in the rumpus, kicked in the nards, kicked in the shins, kicked in the knees, punched in the gut, boxed in the ears. You get it from all directions. When you follow the sewage river down and go downhill with it, everything just goes good. You're happier. And the devil will let you enjoy that because he's like, good, he's not doing anything for me or for God. If you want the devil to leave you alone, compromise. If you want the blessings of God, Dare to be different. It is night and day. I realize even inside of myself, if I fully devoted my life to Christ, I'm going to have the powers of hell on my butt regular. I don't like that. I want to put my shield and my helmet down and I want to sit on a shore of a beach and say, God, I don't want to fight anymore. So many people in America say, I love you. What do you want from me? What do you mean by that? Our sex drive will cause us to say, I love you to somebody because we're in heat. It's amazing how eros gets confused with agape and phileo. I'm a master at eros, love. I'm not a master at agape. I'm not a master at phileo. I've been hurt and wronged and damaged so much that I'll be nice to people, but I've always got people like, I know that I had 2 close friends for 13 years, so I thought. I'm not in touch with them anymore. My mother tells the family, Michael had bonding issues. We never bonded. That's funny. I sought my mother's approval more than my dad's. When we went to LA, we went in 2 separate cars. I didn't want to ride with my dad. I couldn't stand him. And my mother was the abuser. My mother didn't want me to ride with her. No, my mother pushed me away. And I married women that were just like her without realizing it until it was too late. Sometimes I'm human. I get scared. I'm getting older. What if I can't work? What if something happened to me? And then you got to go through this daily BS. You message your HR lady, and then she's got to get all twisted up. Well, you need to go through the ADP. I know my supervisor told you that they couldn't. We tried and we couldn't do it. And he said, that's her job. That's not my job. F that. Let me take care of this. I'll see you tomorrow. Why are women so obtuse and stupid with us? And then when we get mad at them, they go, oh my gosh, you got anger management. No, because you're an idiot. I'm sorry, I can't deal with idiot women. I do something and there's nothing wrong with what I do, and you turn it into a accuse, I'm in trouble. I went through that with my mother. I'm not going through it with some HR queen that never developed beyond 13 years old mentally. I'm tired of society where women are over us men. That needs to stop. Why do you think so many boys are becoming little girls? Because of women domination. They've shamed us. They've emasculated us. They've blamed us. They got control of the courts for child support, alimony, and redistribution of the man's goods to you that didn't earn any of it. Now you got these smart alecky women. I don't need a man. I bought my own house and well, good for you. Go be a little toddler about it. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. And even my channel is born it out. All the flirting, all the leading on. Oh, I want to talk to you. You ask a question, they don't get back to you for a week. Why do you think there's a song from the 70s? American women, get away from me. Why did he sing that? Because he knew when I was still in diapers, something was wrong. I've aged. I'm not going to marry a woman from another country that's in her 40s and lives with mommy and hasn't worked a job. Why in the hell would I do that? That would be a problem. I say I want to date somebody in this country, but dating leads to mating, and then there's problems with that. And there's the guilt because God says you can't do that. You know, there's some weird stuff out there in society. Woody Allen ended up marrying the daughter that he adopted, and everybody looked at that. Ironically, they seem to be doing very well. She's an Asian woman, so she's not his blood. Woody Allen was bizarre. And women really have a problem in this country about age thing. Women, I'm going to tell you something. It's none of your business. If two people are at age discrepancies fall in love with each other, it's none of your damn business. You got no say. I don't want to date or marry 90% of the women my age bracket in America. Their bodies have gone to the scrapyard. They're the issues, the baggage. If I date a woman in her 20s or 30s, there's a Grand Canyon gulf between us mentally, experientially. The younger generation is on a completely different planet, for the most part. I'm telling you, it is dangerous out there. And most women, to me, they're exploiters. When they want a man, they want something. And it's not this. They want you to clean up their mess. Clean up their debts. Buy them and spoil them whatever they want. And I become cynical. And I don't have props. I don't have a community of believers here. I do not have a community of believers. I've gone to what? 4 churches in this town? Nobody cares. Not at all. We got people with wrong priorities. I'm talking to a woman, and I love her dearly as a friend. If you're listening, I'm not going to call your name out. You're on drugs. You're on alcohol. You don't have a job. You're on disability. You live in your parents' property, and then you moved in a boyfriend. You broke his glasses. Talk about disjunction, conjunction, function. And you tell me, I want to write a book when I was in prison that'll help people. I said, man, you need to fix yourself. And then she's helping some neighbor. What is it with people that are so dysfunctional, they're trying to help everybody else when you are going down, your ship is like this in the water. That's most women today, guys. If you think you're going to row your little lifeboat over that, you're getting on a sinking ship. Row away from all of them. Wait for the rescue ship. One guy got loaded up on whiskey on the Lusitania. He realized something was wrong when the Lusitania listed and heard the explosion down below and came up on deck, saw the chaos in the scene, and apparently that liquor warmed him up. The guy swam 8 miles to Old Head of Kinsale. Oh my gosh, that's cold Atlantic water. He comes up on a beach and a couple sees him. What are you doing? I just survived the sinking hallucination. Ah, you're a drunk. No, he swam. Can you imagine a very significant historical liner, only one, with a little alcohol swam to her survival? All them little privileged women on there went down to their Victorian dresses because they didn't know how to do anything. Crazy. I probably would have done the same thing. Swimming 8 miles of open ocean would be intimidating because you can't see in the water and you hope a shark doesn't come up. They don't generally hang out in the cold environs. I'd be grabbing a dining room table or something made out of real hardwood and throwing it in the water and saying, okay, I'll just stand on this till help arrives. Why are you taking that table? I'm going to report you to the shipping line. You go ahead, buddy. You go right ahead. I could have removed the door, popped the 2 pins, pulled the door up. Something would have been better than nothing. A solid wood door in 1912 will hold you up better than a stupid corridor that you buy at Lowe's for $300. Why would you buy a door you could put your fist through? And they wonder why these houses burn up like toilet paper teepees. A solid corridor will slow flames down big time. I love women, and I don't love them. I don't like all the BS that comes with them. And I know that many of them will say the same about us. But I'm not us. I'm me. People hear me talk about women and say, man, you really bash on women? I bash on everybody, including myself. So get over yourself. So a woman came into the chat last night wanting to impress me about why global warming is a reality. And I said, answer me this. And I said, what happened in the last ice age? It ended well before there was transportation and plastics and factories. And she toddled on out of the room. Liberals are interesting. They cannot answer the questions that God has caused me to think deeper. Even other conservatives don't ask those questions. They can't see the trees through the forest. And God's given me an ability. It wouldn't appear I didn't go to college. I've always been dumber than a stump before I was saved. But when you get saved, you get a mindset, if you allow God, where you could run circles around Einstein, okay? Because if you have the Holy Spirit reveals truth. And Democrats prove to me over and over, you don't answer the question because you can't answer the question. I've stumped you and you don't want to say, you know what? Michael, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. Why would I date or have an interest in a woman that can't admit she's wrong? That's a waste of my damn time. And that's all we got is a bunch of women that will never admit they're wrong. It's always us. It's everybody else. Somebody tell me they left they left the Conservative Party because of 8 years under Trump. Well, it hasn't been 8 years. I don't know what kind of math that is. Must be new math. I think it's 5. And you're going to tell me the Biden administration was peaches and cream? You're delusional. You're not a good candidate to fall in love with. I'll have to be subject to MSNBC, CNN, and that crazy redheaded Raggedy Ann, Psaki, Jen Psaki. Can you imagine being married to a Jen Psaki? Whoopi Goldberg, a Joy Behar. Can you imagine being married to that? Can you imagine being married to Nancy Pelosi that says suffering? Or any number of dress barn girls with an attitude. I'm amazed at how many Caucasian women dress ridiculous, buy the corporate thing, and they'll look down their nose at me. I'm like, girl, I'm flying at 36,000 feet and you're not even clearing the treetops in your little sputtering single engine. You're going down, girl. And here comes Stealth. What was that? Ocean Heart. I love how women have recalibrated their brains and they think they're in alignment. And if they were a car, it'd be going down the road and they don't see it. I'm telling the truth. Most people in this country got their head up their butt cheeks, especially the females, but men too, because men, they chase that stuff. Oh, she's great looking. No, she's not. Look at her clothing, her obsession with the doggy. I'm not against a woman liking animals, but this dog thing has gone too dang far. I have had racism dished at me from Hispanics. I've had it dished at me from blacks. I've had it dished at me by Native Americans. I've had hatred shown to me by feminists, by women, even when I didn't do anything wrong. A woman in a brown business vest or jacket with the brown slacks. Brown slacks don't look good on anybody. That fits UPS. Why is it that boring, dowdy women? I'm standing in Dollar Tree at the JCRS shopping center around Colfax and Sims, I think it was. There's a woman in front of me dressed that way, and I got my chain on. She turns around and looks. She's got long brown hair. You can just tell by looking at her face that she's not a happy individual. She looks with a look of disgust, turns back around, and she looks and makes this little psh. I'll say, oh, you a CDL vehicle? Sound like you got air brakes. Psh. Remember when women used to do that? You got air brakes, huh? And she goes, why do you got that chain around your neck? I say, because I like it. That's got to be heavy. I said, yeah, it's about 3 pounds. I said, ma'am, why would you even ask me that? Why does it matter to you? I should have pushed in, but I didn't because women are bat crazy today. And that's something. I'm standing 4 feet behind her line. It wasn't even COVID, but I don't get up close to people. I respect boundaries. And it bothered her, just a man standing there quietly holding his stuff in line with a chain around his neck. These are the people that get on the internet and say, this guy's got problems. There's something wrong with this guy. He needs mental health. No, a woman in shit brown clothing standing in front of me in line thinking she's a professional is getting worked up about a quiet man that doesn't have BO, tattoos and piercings out of every orifice of my body, just quietly holding his things, keeping a respectful distance. Those are the kind of people that are destroying this country. Why would a woman even ask me that? Then I'm in a thrift store one day and a woman that looked like Elvira. She had the biker leather jacket on, the spiked black hairs. Man, I love your necklace. And it dawned on me, the normal people. You know, the ones that dress for success. They're the biggest a-holes in our culture today. The church is a major on wearing dresses and slacks and professional dressing to come into the church are the ones fleecing their wallets. The churches aren't growing. They're curmudgeon. My long hair is a sin. I got a logger's chain around my neck. And it dawns on me, does your pastor really care about you? No, he doesn't. So why are you going? Why are you doing this? And he mandates that members come to a meeting an hour long before Sunday school every weekend. Why would I become a member? Why do I got to go to these church meetings Sunday? What is the point? Nothing's changing. And I see a cute, long-haired white woman. She looks simple. She's got a husband who doesn't come to church. And what's funny is I catch her looking at me many times like, isn't that funny? She's got 2 kids that are a handful. Her husband doesn't come to church. She's doing all this. He got a good paying job and she's not happy. She's looking at me thinking, man, he's got a wild spirit or a free spirit. I'm not entertaining that because I can't. 1, she's married. 2, she's got kids. Remember Susan Smith drowned her kids and blamed a black guy for carjacking her because the boyfriend didn't want to date her because she had children? White women are dangerous, folks. That one that drowned her kids in the tub in Texas. The teen girl that killed a kid and said it was amazing and wrote it in her journal and went to church Sunday evening singing Awesome God. I'm not wrong in what I say. I think that mental illness resides more in white women than any other race of women. Bipolar medications, that the whole kit and caboodle seems to be a real problem in white Western women. I want to know why. I'd like to study that. I'd like to look at that because it is a reality. I don't care what people think about my shirt. Why? I'm not ruining the country. I like antiques. I like old world stuff. I like old world values. I like the brain to be able to ascertain what is and what is not. And you can't get that in college. And you can't even get it at church. You get it with a relationship with God and reading this book. But most pastors, they're not growing their church because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not confronting their flock's flaws. It's easy to talk about the sins of everybody doing stuff outside the church. I want to go home because this world sucks. The games, the crap, the suffering to make a living, to go to church. Where's God in all this? You're here on this channel because you get more out of this than you would in a church. Now that's messed up. The church should be the best place for a Christian, the highlight of the week. Not all kumbaya, okay? But will you have genuine fellowship with people who love and care about you? No, we're actors. That's all we are, is actors in this country. That's it. I gotta go. I gotta make my breakfast. If the power doesn't go out tonight, I'll be back, ranting as usual, lighting up the internet, talking about things that people are afraid to talk about. You can have your professional channels that make all the money, regurgitating the news with their little spin and then making neon outlines of their face. Wow, that's cool. Market yourself. I won't do it. I'm chained and I'm unchained at the same time. I love it. I love it. This is raw. This is unfiltered. This is the Mike Nelson Show. And it ain't showtime for the sheep. This makes the sheeple uncomfortable, as we should. Have a good day.